At the height of the pandemic, my main source of income was DoorDash. I was let go from my sales job as profits plummeted, and there was a massive layoff. So, jobs like DoorDash and Uber Eats were what I had to do in order to pay my bills. Well, I usually worked at night. I felt it was calmer, and you tended to get bigger tips because people were hungrier at these times. I picked up an order from this Italian restaurant, and based on the order size, it must have been for a large party of some sort. And mind you, this was about 10 p.m. at night on a Saturday. When I had finally arrived at the address that was on the order, I noticed I was delivering to this big mansion that was in the hills of our city. It honestly was very isolated, but whoever owned it had to easily be a multi-millionaire. Anyway, I get out of my car with the bags of food and head to the front door. Before I even take one step, I could hear music blasting from inside. In the windows, I could see people and strobe lights all moving around. My guess was right. It was definitely some kind of party. I walked up to the massive front door and knocked on it. The music was so loud that I didn't think they could hear me, so I knocked even harder. But no one came, and the door remained closed. About to just leave the food at the front door, I got a text from the customer saying, "Go around back, use the basement door." Pissed the hell off that they couldn't just open the front door, I dutifully followed the instructions and headed to the back. Mind you, it was very dark outside, and the clouds were covering the moon. I had to pretty much use my cell phone flashlight as guidance so I could actually see where I was going. Well, I get to the back, and it is much quieter here, and much darker. There were no lights on or party music. I saw a door slightly opened that I figured was the basement door, but I wasn't too sure. I took a step closer when I suddenly heard this whispering voice calling my name. It didn't come from the house or from the slightly open door. I turned around and saw this thick forest of trees nearby. I remember thinking if I wasn't crazy, someone had just whispered my name from the darkness of those trees. Very uneasy at this point, and praying to God that I was just hearing things in my head, I pulled out my phone and called the customer to let them know that I'm in the back. And that's when I heard this cell phone ringing, coming from the trees surrounding the house. Terrified, I heard the click on the other end of the phone as someone picked up. Just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, the voice that picked up whispered my name like I had heard just a minute ago. I literally said fuck this and left the food by the back door. I sprinted away from the dark trees and back to the front of the house where I parked. Now get this. I decided to look one last time in the windows and all the people partying. As I did so, I noticed that what I thought were people dancing in the windows were actually just cardboard cutouts. There were like 30 of them. And it was the weirdest and creepiest thing that's ever happened to me. I got into my car and just peeled out. I put that specific address on a block so that I never have to deliver there again. I even reported the address to DoorDash. I now have a new job, one that doesn't require me to deliver large amounts of food to a psycho who lives in a mansion. And to all my fellow DoorDashers out there, please be safe. When this story took place, I had been working for DoorDash for a little over a year. Besides the crap tips, the job was simple. Drive to a restaurant, pick up food, deliver food, repeat. However, in this story, that was not my experience. I had received an order from this high-end restaurant we have in town. It was very popular, and I always had pickups there. Well, this address that I was supposed to be delivering to was on 13 Elm Street Right there, I should have known that this was going to be a bad delivery, but I wasn't as superstitious as I am now. This pickup was at 11 at night. A bit late, but not unusual. I picked up the order and then followed my GPS to 13 Elm Street. The drive over was on the outskirts and in a more desolate part of the town. Like, there were trees and forest everywhere and hardly any houses. But after a 20-minute drive, the GPS said I had finally arrived. The house at number 13 Elm Street was this run-down, neglected property. There were boards covering the windows and weeds clinging to the sides of the house. The house looked creepy as shit under the glow of the moon, and I remember feeling like I was actually in a horror movie. I double-checked the address and confirmed that this was indeed the place. I parked my car in the gravel driveway and was telling myself that maybe the owners were doing renovations, and that's why the house looked this way. As I was reassuring myself, I pulled out my phone and started calling the customer to let them know that I was here with their order. But when I called, it went straight to voicemail. I'll be honest, this unsettled me a bit, but I was committed to the job and made my way up to the front door. I knocked, faintly at first, but then louder. There was no response. DoorDash's protocol at this point is to leave the food at the door and then take a picture. Just as I was about to take the picture, the door creaked open, revealing the darkness inside. And I mean darkness. I couldn't see anything and was praying to God it was the wind that accidentally blew it open. I was about to turn away when I heard this low, raspy voice coming from the darkness saying, "Bring it inside." I looked up, and in the faintest part of the darkness that I could see, I saw this woman. But not a normal woman. She looked at least 100 years old, had these ice blue eyes, and was wearing what looked like a bedsheet of some sort. I seriously thought my eyes were playing a trick on me. I tried to squint them and try to see if I couldn't see her, but she was there. In sheer horror, I left the food on the front steps and bolted back to my car. I drove off so fast into the night, with the old rundown house growing smaller in my rear view. The next day, out of pure curiosity, I googled the 13 Elm Street in my town. To my horror, I found out that property had been vacant for over 5 years. The last person to live in it was a woman by the name of Shirley Vaughn, who had died in that house at the age of 98. I ended up reporting this incident to DoorDash. They'd promised to investigate, but I haven't heard anything back from them. I have my theories, but I truly believe that I saw Shirley's ghost that night. Call me crazy, but it's what I believe. And if it wasn't a ghost, then I'm not sure what I saw. But one thing is for sure, I do not DoorDash at nights anymore. So, I'm still haunted by this story. I normally don't order out. I usually buy groceries for myself and then meal prep them in advance to save time and money. But I'll be honest, sometimes I just get lazy. Last winter, it was an especially cold night outside. And for context, I do live alone, and I am a 24-year-old female. Well, it was such a cold night, and I was craving my favorite local pizza place. I decided what the hell, and placed an order on DoorDash for it to be delivered. After about an hour of waiting and watching some horror movie on Netflix, I saw my phone light up with a notification from DoorDash. It said my driver was 2 minutes away. Almost as if right on cue, my doorbell rang. I excitedly opened the door to find a middle-aged man dressed in a weather-worn jacket, red beanie, and my pizza box in his hands. He handed me the pizza box and told me to enjoy my pizza as he walked away. I thanked the man, closed the door, and then went into my living room to feast. But on my way to the living room, that's when I noticed something alarming. The pizza box had the logo of a different restaurant, not from my favorite place that I had ordered from. That's when I suddenly got a text. I glanced at my screen, and my skin crawled as I read the message. "We apologize for any inconvenience. Your Dasher had car troubles and is running late. Please be patient." As fear started to grip me, I instantly started to ask myself, if my Dasher didn't deliver the pizza, then who did? Hesitantly, I opened the pizza box. Inside was no pizza, but a single note. It said, "Hope you're alone, sweetie." I ran over to my front living room window and looked outside. Standing a few blocks away, under one of the broken street lamps, was the stranger who delivered the pizza. He was watching my house. I quickly made sure every door and window was locked in my house, and then called the police. But when they arrived and did a sweep of the neighborhood, they didn't find anyone. I shit you not, I did not fall asleep for the next 2 weeks. I was wide awake every night, terrified that stranger was going to come back and kill me or something. Thankfully, I had my boyfriend and other family members come stay with me for a while. I don't know who the hell that man was, or how he even knew that I was ordering pizza from DoorDash. The whole situation was way too close to home, and I haven't ordered anything from DoorDash since.